They told her she didn't belong at that gate, but every name carved in white stone whispered otherwise. Who was this quiet black woman in a threadbare suit? And why would a four-star general halt a state funeral to stand at attention for her? Today, you'll hear a hidden chapter of American service. The story of Sergeant Janelle Miller, a combat medic who carried men out of a jungle that tried to swallow them whole, then vanished from the records she helped keep honorable. If you believe women who served, especially those history overlooked, deserve to be heard, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Every click helps us keep their voices alive and honors those who served America. The guard's voice, sharp and laced with disdain, cut through the quiet morning at Arlington National Cemetery. Arms crossed, shoes polished, he stood like a human barricade at the grand entrance. A second guard, same age, same arrogance, hovered beside him. Before them stood Janelle Miller, 87, shoulders slightly bowed by time, hands mapped with work, suit clean but frayed at the cuffs. The only suit she owned. Her eyes were clear and steady, fixed on the rolling green, where the flags drifted at half-mast. "Ma'am, this is a private funeral for General David Wallace. Invitation only. Credentials." Now his words hit like gravel. She said nothing. Silence can be a kind of rank. Black sedans began to arrive, mirrored windows throwing sunlight like hard coins. Curious faces glanced over. Officers, staffers, family. The younger guard huffed. Impatience turned up for effect. "Look, Grandma, the motorcade's almost here. Public entrance is a mile that way. You're creating a security issue. Move along, or we move you." Her voice, when it came, was soft but heavy. River stones worn smooth. "I'm here for the general. He would have wanted me here." The second guard laughed without humor. "Right. General Wallace was a four-star who advised presidents. He didn't have time for uninvited guests." A small crowd gathered, dark suits and dress blues, medals and mourning veils. A low hum of whispers. Pity in some eyes, irritation in others. Janelle had lived a long time with being unseen. Sometimes invisibility is safer than notice. But not today. "My name is Janelle Miller," she said evenly. "Tell them Janelle Miller is here." A young lieutenant, face too new for the bars on his shoulders, strode over. "What's the holdup?" "This woman refuses to leave, sir," the corporal said. "Claims she knew the general. No invitation, no credentials." The lieutenant's gaze slid over the worn fabric, the scuffed shoes, the empty lapel. "Ma'am, you're disrupting a state funeral. Final warning. Vacate the premises." "I am not leaving." "Then you're under arrest for trespassing and interfering with a military ceremony." He nodded. Hands reached for her arms. The lieutenant's eye snagged on something small and dull, pinned slightly crooked to her lapel. Misshapen, tarnished, ordinary to the untrained eye. He reached, flicked it with a smirk. "What is this supposed to be? A Cracker Jack prize?" The world tilted. Manicured lawn dissolved into sucking jungle mud. Cut grass became the metallic breath of blood and cordite. Murmurs turned to screams. A young Captain David Wallace lay pinned under a fallen banyan, leg twisted wrong, rain carving rivers through the grime on his face. Kneeling beside him, sleeves dark with other men's lives, was Sergeant Janelle Miller, combat medic, hands sure, voice steady in the storm. Wallace's palm, shaking, pressed a jagged shard of metal, still warm, into Janelle's hand. "Keep this," he rasped. "It's not official, but it means more than anything. They meant. It means you were there. It means you saved us." The vision snapped. Back at the gate, sunlight bright again, the lieutenant still smirking, unaware that he had put his finger on a battlefield. "Don't touch that," Janelle said, quiet and dangerous. The guards gripped her arms. A small gasp rolled through the crowd. Not everyone just watched. At the edge stood Captain Hayes, two tours etched in the way he scanned a scene. He'd seen that stillness before, the kind that belongs to people who've been somewhere loud and came back quieter. He stepped aside, phone to his ear. "Sir, Captain Hayes. We have an elderly woman at the main gate for General Wallace's funeral. Name, Janelle Miller. She's wearing a tarnished pin. Looks like a piece of shrapnel." Silence. Then a voice gone raw at the edges. "Colonel Markinson. Say that name again." "Janelle Miller, sir." The line went dead. Engines. A low rumble, building like thunder. 3 black Suburbans crested the rise and braked hard at the gate, doors flying open in a single motion. Dress blues spilled out, sergeants, majors, colonels, ribbons whispering against fabric. From the lead vehicle stepped General Michael Peters, 4 silver stars catching the sun. The air itself seemed to stiffen to attention. He didn't look at the lieutenant. He didn't look at the guards. He walked a straight line until he stood 3 feet from Janelle Miller. Then, he raised his right hand into the sharpest salute that Hill had seen in years. "Sergeant Miller, ma'am!" His voice carried like a bell. "It is an honor." The crowd inhaled as one. The lieutenant scrambled for an explanation. "General, sir, and she had no authorization. She was causing—" "She," the general said without looking at him, "has more authorization to be on this ground than you or I will ever have." He turned, addressing everyone. "You see an elderly civilian? I see a giant. This is Sergeant Janelle Miller, known to a few as the Shepherd." His voice steadied into the cadence of a citation. In the spring of 1968, deep in enemy territory, a helicopter carrying 12 Green Berets was shot down. For 3 days, they were surrounded, outnumbered 10 to 1. Hope was a rumor. On the 3rd night, one medic came for them. Through mud and monsoon, through patrols and fire, she found them. She carried half of those men out on her own back. He pointed gently to the small crooked pin. "You mistook this for trash," he said to the lieutenant. "It is a shard of mortar shrapnel that landed 3 feet from Captain Wallace." Sergeant Miller threw herself onto him, taking the blast that would have killed him. Wallace later forged that medal into a pin with his own hands and called it the Medal of Shepherds. Only one was ever made. Salutes began to rise, hesitant at first, then a tide. Privates, captains, colonels. The hillside stiffened into a living memorial to a woman in a faded suit. The general's gaze cut back to the lieutenant. His voice dropped, lethal in its quiet. "You demanded her invitation. Every headstone here is her invitation. You asked about medals. Her scars are medals your rule book can't quantify. Your most important tool isn't your sidearm, it's judgment. And today, you failed." He took a breath to continue, but felt a careful hand touch his sleeve. "Michael," Janelle said softly, calling him by his name, not his stars. "They're kids. Let it be." He held her eyes, then nodded once. "Mercy is also rank." Janelle turned to the lieutenant. No anger, just a weight of years. "Son, that uniform is a promise, not a shield. Respect is earned in the small choices, especially when you think nobody will notice. Sometimes, the most important heroes wear no uniform at all." Memory flickered one last time. A field station smelling of antiseptic and thunder. Janelle face down on a cot, back peppered with metal. Wallace in a splint pressing that jagged shard into her palm. "They'll put my name on a medal for what you did," he'd said, voice thick. "But it belongs to you. I can't give you anything the Army will recognize. So take this, so I never forget the debt." General Peters escorted Sergeant Janelle Miller through the gate himself, past the rows of stone, past the men who had just learned a new definition of the word honor. He seated her at the front row among Wallace's family. They wept and held her hands, the woman who had given them 50 more years with the man they loved. The fallout was quick, but not cruel. No careers ended. Janelle would not have wanted that. Instead, the general built a new training block at every sensitive post. The Miller Protocol, situational awareness, history, and empathy. Learn to see the person, not the paperwork. Months later, Rain stitched a gray afternoon together outside a diner near a different base. The humbled lieutenant, now quieter inside his own skin, sat alone with a coffee he didn't taste. The bell over the door chimed. A woman in a simple jacket stepped in, shook the rain from her shoulders, and took a stool at the counter. Janelle. He stood, heart tripping, walked over. He placed a $10 bill by her cup, voice rough with a lesson learned the hard way. "For the coffee, ma'am." And for the lesson, Janelle looked up, really looked, and saw the change. She smiled, small and certain. "Stay safe, son," she said, the quiet benediction of someone who has seen storms and learned which ones matter. Heroes don't always wear their greatness on their sleeves. Sometimes they pin it crooked, where only those who know can see. If this story moved you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every new subscriber helps us preserve and share the voices of women who served and were too often overlooked. Share this video with someone who needs to remember what honor really looks like.